Fluminense 0, Chelsea 2. It's happening. Chelsea are on for the Club World Cup. Regrettably, and I'll give you a peek behind the curtain here, I didn't put this in any of my predictions, but I did feel as the tournament was going on that this will be Chelsea's. Whoever they face in the final, they'll find a way, but they beat Fluminense, they've made it to the final, Andy. People say, they were on the easier side of the draw. Well, you can only beat what's put in front of you. And if you're going to put a load of sorry South American slugs in front of them, then Chelsea are going to put them to the sword, quite frankly. Is that how you see it all, Andy, or have I gone over the top?
yeah, word for word, Marcus. That's all of it.
I was just reading one of your articles, sorry.
Yeah, that's right. It's a funny one, isn't it? Because I found it quite an entertaining game, but at the same time, you speak to people who follow Brazilian football closely, and the surprise over there that Fluminense have got this far is huge. Like, they were really the fourth rated out of the four Brazilian teams. So for them to get this far is a great achievement. It felt to me like there was more jeopardy in the Palmeiras game in the quarterfinal, to be perfectly honest. And not just because of the Estaval angle and all that sort of stuff. Look, Fluminense had their good bits in this, but it always felt like Chelsea had it under control. I know what you mean about that creeping inevitability of Chelsea. It's sort of, I guess it's like the Conference League in reverse, isn't it? Because for most of that competition, you're trying to look for a reason why they won't win it. And there's belatedly a bit of jeopardy introduced in the first half of the final. Whereas this feels like the other way round. Like, no one really believed in Chelsea at the beginning. And as it's gone on, I'm completely on the same page as you. I think it has felt more and more like, hang on, they might actually be doing this. Look, it'll be a fascinating final anyway, whoever gets there.
Yeah. Joao Pedro, Luke Moore, he stopped his holiday so he could get involved in this tournament. Chelsea paid quite a lot of money. Some are saying that he's already paid off a third of his transfer fee because that game was worth about 20 million quid. But we'll come to that in a minute. But he started ahead of Nicholas Jackson. There was much chat about where he's going to play for Chelsea because they've already got Jackson. Delap's obviously a new signing. Delap was suspended for this game, but he was put up top and has become, I don't want to over-egg this, but he's become one of the best players in the world. Two great goals.
Full of beans. You're absolutely full of beans today, Mark. I can't wait for the rest of the show. This is an incredible start from you, this. Almost as good a start as João Pedro's.
Well, indeed.
I would say, look, 2 goals of supreme quality. Absolutely outstanding to watch if you're a Chelsea fan, because there were, and look, there still may be, because it's still early days, and they're playing against a Brazilian club side and not the cream of European football. But an amazing start. There were question marks over whether he would be good enough to fill the gap that people have identified in that area of the pitch for Chelsea. They would say they spent all this money, they've been so busy in the transfer market, yet they don't seem to have nailed down either the goalkeeping position, which we can come on to in a minute if you like, and the centre forward position. When João Pedro gets over the line, you think, okay, could be an improvement, but there's still question marks. The goals he scored and the manner in which he scored them, the finishes were both sensational, like sublime finishes. The second one off the bar is a beauty. Oh. He doesn't need to do that to score, but he does do it. And, he may have kind of cancelled his holiday to do this, but he's still having a lovely time.
Luke, is the lesson we should really take from this is holidays are good for you? So, like, a bit of a holiday. He turns up and he's Superman.
I know what he's done.
Those were the actions of a fresh player.
Yeah, he's done. But what he's done is he's done what a lot of people do, a lot of dads do. Yeah, I'll book a 2-weeker. Halfway through the second week, I'm bored of this now. I want to go home. I miss the local pub. The kids are annoying me. I'm happy to get back to work, get a bit of peace and quiet and get my headphones in. Thanks very much. So he's like, look, bad news. I've had to go. You guys carry on, enjoy your holiday. I'm going to go play football with the lads. And the results speak for themselves.
Yeah, I will apologise, though, if I score a goal. When that first one went in, he wanted to wheel away and celebrate. Yeah. He was wanting to go potting, then he was like, oh, yeah, I used to play for them. Sorry.
It's one of the few... I mean, I'm not saying I defend it, because I do think I kind of broadly agree with you, Marcus, and your long-held position on this kind of thing. But I think if you were gonna, if you were gonna sort of give him a little bit of credit, you'd say, well, he came through there. He clearly, they played a big role in his development as a player. It's not like he spent a couple of games there on loan or whatever. So I do kind of get it. But at the same time, you just scored a couple of beauties to get your team in the final of a competition.
I think
you don't have to go into their face and start willy-coptering at them. But you can find some kind of middle ground.
The second goal was in front of the Chelsea fans. I think it's more the fact that he went to celebrate and then thought, I may move back there in later life.
So I guess, Marcus, the fact is, the supplementary question to should you celebrate or not against your former club, which we already know the answer to, the three of us, is if you've done the I'm sorry the first time, do you do it again the second time? I mean, obviously, if you don't do it again the second time, it makes the first time look completely fake.
Yeah, but it's also like, if you're that sorry, stop fucking doing it then. Stop doing it if you're that sorry.
I don't mind the muted celebration. It's the apology, because you're meant to do it. Who was the Real Madrid player that celebrated with Jude Bellingham when they scored the last-minute goal at Man City? Was it Diaz? Who was the former Man City player?
Yeah, Brahim Diaz.
He scored the equaliser, did he not? And did like an apology or thing. And then when Jude Bellingham got the winner and did that funny little walk, he was straight in there. He forgot himself there, didn't he?
Yeah,
you see?
I think that's called Scott Sinclairing, I think.
Yeah.
That is when obviously he scored against Chelsea and very few of the people at Stamford Bridge remembered that he'd actually played for Chelsea. I guess that's the thing. But the added thing with the João Pedro thing, of course, is I'm really sorry for doing that, because I realise that as Brazilians, this competition means a lot more to you than it does to us, but I've done it anyway.
Yeah.
Well, it obviously meant a lot to a lot of people, because there was over 70,000 people in the stadium, and one of them was boxing ring announcer Michael Buffer, who came out on the pitch and gave a big old "Let's get ready to rumble on the tannoy." Come on, the big buff. When you've got the big buff there, it's a massive event.
It's great to see the big buff.
Yeah.
These days, the big buff. If those of you who are listening aren't big boxing fans, these days, Marcus, you'll love this if you're not already aware. The big buff will come in and do "Let's get ready to rumble" for a big boxing event. But now, I've noticed in his old age and the fact that he's made so much money, he's like richer than God. He doesn't even do the undercard fights now. He just comes out for the big main event.
Of course.
They get someone else to do the undercard. So it's great to see him.
They've really thought, how on earth could we? I mean, because tickets were going for $13.40.
Yeah, we need to pull out all the stops here.
Yes, indeed. And I think they, get old Buffer in there and it's bums on seats. It does make sense. So Chelsea are in the final. They will play a big hitter, it's fair to say, PSG versus Real Madrid, of course, later today. Now, depending on their exact participation fee and exchange rates, etc., blah-de-blah-de-blah, the total prize money that Chelsea have earned so far in the competition is being reported by most people as around £80 million. I mean, that's not too shabby. Bearing in mind, we always like to remind people that winning the League Cup final gets you, 150 grand?
When Hugh Radcliffe heard Chelsea were earning this money, he basically just put his pint glass through the telly. Raging he was.
Yeah, I can't imagine what he was thinking. Maresca, when was asked about the Dosh, replied, "Chelsea have made that money, not me. I prepare for the games in the same way and I don't care about the money. We don't get any of it. Unfortunately,
I think Maresca is up till now quite an underrated, chaos merchant. He's saying a lot of stuff around this Club World Cup. He did one about the weather not being acceptable in America, which is amazing. Then he did one where he challenged a Brazilian journalist about the amount of games Brazilian teams have played, and then found out in real time that the Brazilian teams had played more than the European teams had. I didn't know what to say. Now he's saying this. I think as we kind of get more used to him, I can see him being like an underrated prospect for an agent of chaos in the Premier League next season. I think it'd be pretty explosive.
Look, I think you can underrate him. Bear in mind that after the final day when Chelsea won at Forest, I mean, in quite a polite way, he basically told their critics to F off, didn't he? He said, I don't know how you would put it there, but I think that performance was the equivalent of what you call F off. I was like, did he really say that? And it's
That's lovely.
Just because it's a second language and because he didn't actually say the word, he got a pass. So you're right. I think low key is creeping up very, very nicely.
I do like that. Well, who was it on Sky Sports News once who said, well, I can't remember who it was and who they were talking about. They said, well, he's been acting a bit like a bit of a CUNT, and it's like, you can't just spell it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not the way around it.
You just try to spell the word bed so he doesn't know he's got to go to bed.
Yeah.
Do we have any CAKE in the tin?
These people can't spell. They're adults. They're working.
It's superb, isn't it? That's fine, isn't it? That shouldn't be. Oh, well, anyway, that's Jim White for you. It wasn't Jim White, don't worry. Much far more professional than
Who
that.
Can't spell?
Luke Moore.
No, I like
Take it up with him. Well, in uplifting Club World Cup news, FIFA have opened a new headquarters in New York City. Which you think, well, the World Cup is being held in North America. They've got to put it somewhere. They didn't have to put the office in Trump Tower, though, did they?
They didn't have to.
No.
But,
Were they incentivised to, Andy Brassel?
So the question is, they have a special Trump shop in Trump Tower. So if you're a visitor, you go in and...
I genuinely don't, honestly.
On the mezzanine, you can buy Trump coffee cups... Trump nappies for your child, all sorts of different stuff.
Massive walls that you can put around your house.
Presumably, there's some sort of going to be some sort of collab in the shop, isn't there?
Yeah, you'd hope so. You'd hope so.
This is just a latest in the long line of grifts from the Trump administration. I mean. We've come a long way since Jimmy Carter had to put his peanut farm in a blind trust to become president. Trust me. There's literally like lines in the Constitution as to why this should not be happening from the Donald Trump side of the ledger. What do we expect from Gianni Infantino? Not a lot. As he failed to even reach that standard we've expected. Yes, he has again. The point is that, like, I was reading that FIFA under Infantino have already got a big office in Miami where they do all their work for the Club World Cup. They've got an office in Toronto as well. Infantino seems to be obsessed with setting up offices and closing down. He set up a really expensive one in Paris, which he just had to close down again because they're not using it. It's just another example of the billionaire class. One rule for us and another rule for you. He doesn't care what he's spending his money on. He'd rather sidle up to Trump, possibly with a view to what he's going to do when he's no longer president of FIFA, and he knows what side his bread's buttered on. And it's a case of, do you want to get inside this massive corruption boat and be a part of it, or do you want to see it leave the harbour without you?
I thought you were offering me.
I don't think you're going to be that far. I mean, what I would concede that if Trump was having to take any of us onto his boat, he'd probably go for you, Marcus. But I don't think you're anywhere near the front of the queue.
I think that I'm the least threatening, the least demagogue-like.
I think so, yeah. And I'm the one who's most likely to be renditioned somewhere.
Well, Infantino said about this move, he said, we have to be in New York. So that should clear that up, Luke. Not just for the FIFA Club World Cup this year and the FIFA World Cup next year, we have to be in New York as well when it comes to where our offices are based. So today we are opening an office of New York here in Trump Tower. Thanks, of course, to President Trump as well, who is a big soccer fan, which he clearly isn't.
Not, is he?
But I do love that. He said, no, it's not just for the FIFA Club World Cup. And you're thinking, because an ounce of that may make sense. So is it for the World Cup next year? No, it's not for that either. So why are you doing it? Oh, because when it comes to where our offices are based, we need it, right?
Yeah.
You had like 20% of an answer there, and you've just thrown that to one side, and then you've just talked bollocks essentially. But we're used to the man. Trump Tower was, of course, the home of Chuck Blazer, so maybe it's some sort of FIFA legacy thing. I don't know.
But there's also an example of one of the FIFA exec committee when that bust happened around the time of Chuck Blaze. I forget his name now. It might be Marine, I think. He was under house arrest at Trump Tower for a while. So
yeah, he had one apartment for him and one apartment for his cat as well.
Chuck Blaze did, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yes, one must specify the late, not so great Chuck Blazer. So, the FIFA Club World Cup, it is coming to its conclusion, everybody. You'll be pleased to know there's only a couple of games left. The only thing that it spared us off, the Club World Cup and FIFA, is a third place playoff. Imagine if they'd have done that. Imagine Real Madrid having to go.
Yeah, they that's a basic admin error from the lads.
It's a really bad admin error, especially when you consider the whole tone of modern football is punishment football. So whether that be the Carabao Cup for Premier League teams, or whether it be, for example, what has been officially dubbed the punishment round, the playoff to get into the last 16 in the Champions League. I mean, if you're going to be FIFA and you're going to properly compete with UEFA, you have to tick all the boxes. This is bad. It's bad.
Marcus, Andy's having a go at the Carabao.
Yeah, I'm not.
I'm having a go at Premier League teams' attitudes to it in the earlier rounds, which is quite different.
Although it's always won by a big side, Andy.
Yeah.
Earlier rounds, like I said.
Oh, well, they managed to get through. Well, the Club World Cup wasn't...
Maybe we could... sorry, Marcus. Maybe we could host our own third, fourth place playoff.
Yeah, maybe.
Hire out Wembley like they do at Soccer Aid.
Right.
And get Fluminense and either one of Real Madrid and PSG to come. And we'll all the proceeds from the third place playoff can go straight to Donald Trump without having to be funneled through FIFA first.
If it's on that pitch on Cali Road with all the bald patches in the Astro, I'm into it.
Yeah,
Market stage it ourselves.
Yeah, sounds good.
Apologies to people at Soccer Aid. We do know it's hosted at Old Trafford and not Wembley.
Oh, sorry. That's literally the extent of my knowledge of Soccer Aid. I'll avoid it like the plague.
Basically, he's been trying for so many years to get an invite to it, and you want to pull the rug from under him. What are you doing, Luke? We've got to get behind spells. Come on.
Soccer Aid's great because they raise loads of money for charity. Listen, you're all rich and famous. Give the money anyway. It's like when they say, when a millionaire dentist from America goes to Africa and shoots a fucking rhino for $1 million because it raises money for conservation.
He gets
just give the money anyway.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, just give the money anyway. And then we haven't got to put up with fucking watching the bass player from fucking the 1975 put a fucking goal past, someone from Love Island. I don't want it on the telly.
All right. Turn your telly off then. There's a lot of stuff on there.
I do. Yeah. So I didn't know it was at Old Trafford.
Well, as I tried to say, it seems like a while ago, the Club World Cup wasn't the only tournament underway yesterday. The Champions League got underway. The qualification began on Tuesday as well.
The never-ending story. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
The never-ending story. Is that what happened? Did some 80s kid find a book in the back of an old bookshop and opened it and it was cursed and now we have to watch Champions League football forever and ever until a horse dies?
I think so, yeah. I think it was the quarter-final of the Scottish League Cup. It wasn't. So 28 teams are in action this week in the Champions League qualifiers.
I mean, what a sentence. On the 9th of July, that is.
You'll be pleased to know that Gibraltar champions Lincoln Red Imps are involved.
Yeah.
Right.
Did they beat Brendan Rodgers' Celtic at one point?
No, they beat Rangers.
Did they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I knew there was some kind of notable result against the Scottish team.
Yeah. This time they faced Faroe Island side Vikingur. Red Imps won the first leg 3-2 away in the Faroe Islands. How about that, everybody?
What a game.
Yeah, they've got a player called Lee Cassiaro who's 43 and he's played for the Red Imps since 1998. Hats off to him. That's Matt Letizia levels of loyalty.
But it's amazing because he's 43 and he's still doing it. And he's played for Lincoln Red Imps his whole career and he's got 66 caps for Gibraltar as well. But the fact that he's still doing it as a forward at 43 does tend to imply that maybe 15 years ago he might have been a much better player and therefore could have played for a better team than Lincoln Red Imps. He made his debut in 1998.
It's incredible, isn't it? He has the record for most titles with one club, 60 of the buggers. So you're right. Could he have left? Well, I think Andy
60 titles, 60 trophies.
Incredible, isn't it? And I think one might say could he have left, but Andy, it's the kind of loyalty that you just don't see in football much these days. It's a fairy tale.
Yeah, it is. And I think you have to bear in mind the standards when you go back to 1998 of Gibraltarian football as well. I mean, remember when they entered the international arena, a lot of them had to be bought boots before their first UEFA qualifier. So, they've come a long way. And look, some big boys are involved as well. Some traditional names are involved as well. So in this first qualifying round, we have FCSB, the artist formerly known as Steaua Bucharest. So Bakali's boys are involved tonight, I believe. Shakhtar Donetsk are playing in the first round of the Europa League as well on Thursday night. So when Luke started his song, and I always love to hear Luke sing, as you know, it's not without reason. Some of you will have been sitting there going, "Oh yeah, but it's all teams that no one's heard of." Not true. Not true.
Well, I'll tell you what, Scotland would have heard of Lee Cassiaro because he scored a goal at Hampden in a competitive game once. So that'll undoubtedly be the highlight of his career.
Yeah. No, I'm mentioning this for good footballing reasons, Luke. Right, coming up after this, Newcastle United close in on a Nottingham Forest star.
It's mad how quick it changed.
Did they?
Yeah. So, like for me to go in with Duncan, obviously Stubbsy, obviously all of them who I've grew up watching, and to then go and play with them, train with them every day, and play with them, and then so quickly. I remember thinking, these are crap.
Well, we're back to the Football Ramble, everybody. It's one of my favourite quotes from football in general.
Yeah,
a bit like
same.
It's so good. I and it really reminds me of that great Ian Wright quote as well when he said when he got a trial with Crystal Palace, it was obviously where he started his professional career, but he'd been playing like recreational football, grassroots football, and he'd been going around doing trials and so on. And when he got there and he managed to, as I say, get the trial, he was playing with some of the big boys, and he just said, I couldn't believe how slow they were. I love that so much. Just like, here we go, it's party time. Right, anyway, where were we? Newcastle United, they're closing in on Anthony Elanga. They've agreed a deal with Nottingham Forest worth £52.5 million plus bonuses. Forest initially rejected a £45 million bid in June. That was, I feel like that was a naughty bid, Luke Moore. Forest were like, come on.
It was a little bit naughty, but I feel like the person we should have the most sympathy for if this goes through is your friend of mine, Mr. Jacob Murphy, who has had probably the season of his career. I know that we need, top teams need competition for places, and there's competition, different competitions to be fought for next season. But it's that's the lot of a football player, isn't it? You are 1 minute you're the guy, and you're getting match of the day kind of VTs about what a great season you're having, and the next day they're bringing in a player for loads of money in your position, and you've got to fight again really hard to get it. I think that option for them is great from a Newcastle point of view if they get the deal done. Langa's brilliant. He's really fast. He's really direct. His numbers are good. He's clearly a really talented player, one of the standout players in the Premier League last season. So I guess if he wants to go, history tells us that there's not much chance of him staying.
Andy, what do you reckon of this? Because to me, that's a great sign, and it's a shame for the Murphy lovers among us, of which I know you count yourself as one. But I
think it's a good thing because
give us some hope.
Realistically, they are hoping to make a better fist of the season. When a season in which they still played quite well. Of course, they scored a record amount of goals in the season before last, where they didn't make Europe, but. They look weary at various points, and the squad does still have a little whiff of Mike Ashley about it, which is something that they need to get rid of, because some of those players are still from those times. Now, the fact that they've been able to succeed really without going anywhere near mad in the last couple of transfer windows, it's really because Eddie Howe's such a good coach, and he's made many of those players who... some of them didn't even look Premier League serviceable, if we're being perfectly honest, and Jacob Murphy would probably fall into that. And with a combination of his hard work and Howe's coaching, players like him have become like really, really good performers at a good level. I don't think it's reasonable to ask him to play every one of the following 60 games, though, that they will be hoping to play next season. And I would actually back Newcastle to do all right in the Champions League. I mean, you think they're probably looking at 10 games minimum, and then you add the cups to that. It's a lot of time. Look, they've been after Elanga for a really long time. They've saved up, as we all did as children, to get the things that we really wanted, and I think it feels like a better deal for Newcastle than it does for Forest to me. To be perfectly honest.
He always plays
that price.
As well. He's almost ever present, right? And that feeds in again into what Andy's saying. If you're going to be fighting on more fronts and at a higher level again next season, obviously it's no good having a player who isn't always available. Alanga's featured in every Premier League game for Forest last season in some kind of capacity and was effective. So clearly he wants a crack at the Champions League, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a great signing. I think with what Eddie Howe wants from his players to be powerful, pacey, work their socks off, all that kind of stuff, I think he's a good fit. And obviously we could talk about Murphy and so on, but Andy's right. They need more strength and depth. They need to raise the floor of that side as well. Alanga improves that squad. He maybe even improves the starting 11, because you would imagine he'll start more than Murphy on that right side if that's kind of how they want to play, which I suspect they will. So I think it's an excellent signing. Good news all round, though, is that Manchester United are due to receive a significant sell-on fee, apparently 15% of the transfer. So
you see, this is good, actually, because I think if you look at Manchester United's difficulties in selling the players that they really don't want, so Rashford, Garnacho, to a lesser extent Jadon Sancho, although it looks like they might get that over the line sometime in the next week, that was a plan that was never a proper plan. Whereas actually, the thing that's going to work for Ineos is the fact that they're going to get a sell-on from Alanga. They're going to get a big sell-on from Antonio Carreras when he leaves Benfica and joins Real Madrid in the next couple of weeks as well. You're looking at probably 10 million plus there as well. So, yeah, finally some good news.
It's good news for Manchester United. It's terrible news for those who had the temerity to question Man United's transfer policy. They're noticeable by their silence at the moment, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Man United getting 15% of 50 odd million for doing nothing.
Exactly.
Wait, it's absolute Ratcliffe ball. That great to see.
This is like how the bikes in London are called Boris bikes when he had nothing to do with setting up the scheme, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's proper Ratcliffe ball.
Proper Ratcliffe ball is what it means in reality is having to start training late because the training ground's flooded, and then having a really dry cheese sandwich afterwards.
Count me in for the cheese sandwich. Now, speaking of Nottingham Forest, after rumours linking them with Lyon's Malik Fofana, there was some speculation that they were deliberately trying to help Lyon stay in Ligue 1 and the Europa League in order to get rid of Crystal Palace from the competition. What do you think of that, Luke?
I don't think Marinakis would do that. I think you're out of order even suggesting
Andy's about to throw fire to this conspiracy theory.
It's all part of the special relationship in European football, isn't it? Between Lyon and Nottingham Forest, which if Lyon's relegation is confirmed, that might be a bit of a problem for Nottingham Forest, because they won't have the Textor money to pay 31 million for Moussa Diakate anymore.
Well, I mentioned earlier that Newcastle bidding for Forest Anthony Alanga in June for £45 million, a bit of a naughty bid. How about this for a naughty bid? Spurs put in a £50 million bid for West Ham winger Mohamed Kudus. West Ham turned it down, and they were reportedly unimpressed by the add-ons Spurs included in their offer. West Ham want a guaranteed £60 million for Kudus, but reportedly Spurs' £50 million and the add-ons would only be triggered if Spurs won the Premier League or the Champions League. You got to hand it to them, haven't you?
They got to the final a few years ago. Listen,
did you see us?
Have a bit of respect.
We just won the Europa League. We're going up. We know how to win trophies now. These are the add-ons, my friend. Yeah, there are tons of add-ons. You're going to get yours. We're going to get ours. And West Ham
I like the idea that they've offered £50 million for a player from a rival club who cost them £40 million.
Yeah.
It's not the most lucrative, attractive offer, is it? But I guess at some point the deal will be done. But I mean, Spurs just doing the usual thing they do and trying to get it as cheap as possible. And the problem is, Levy does this type of stuff, and he has put his hand in his pocket in recent years, but he always seems to not be able to keep control of the PR, and it just further adds fuel to the fire that he's the type of guy that he seems to be when it comes to business. Maybe having said that, West Ham could basically just be seeding this out to try and get more money, I suppose.
I think that is it, really. I mean, the detail is ludicrous and ludicrously funny, and thank goodness they did it. But on the other hand, if we're looking at the actual numbers, forget the bonuses for a bit, how much should Spurs realistically be playing for Kudus? I don't know, because like you're looking at a player who the idea of him is much better than him at this point.
I think that's a fair comment.
Yeah, I think it's a semi-fair point. I mean, what I mean by that is it's possibly a little bit harsh on him because season before last he was good. Last season he dropped off, but then West Ham kind of dropped off, had a bit more of a tumultuous season. And what I would say about Kudus is when he's in an environment where the team are thriving, he's decent. Like his ceiling's pretty high, and he's also super versatile. You look at the different positions he's played for West Ham over the last year or two. He's played through the middle, off the left. He's played off the right as well. He's become a bit of a Swiss Army knife, and I don't know if they'll want to play him like that if he does move. But I think that he's definitely got a high ceiling and got a lot of potential. I just feel like we've seen enough of him to know he'd be good if he's in the right environment. Now, I'm not saying Spurs is the right environment because who knows, right? Who knows what's going to happen? It's a brand new coach, and last season in the Premier League they were pretty desperate. So we'll see. But I think he's earned enough, enough kind of currency to have been forgiven a kind of average season last season in a fairly poor side.
I think the other side to that, from the Tottenham perspective, is why not test West Ham out a bit? They need the money. They can't do anything until they get the money on board. So,
Indeed. All right, gentlemen. Coming up after this, will Manchester United make the documentary that we all want to see? Welcome back to the Ramble, everybody. Yes, now Manchester United have reportedly scrapped plans for a brand new All or Nothing documentary, which would have made them more than £10 million. It would have been the most Amazon has paid for an All or Nothing documentary. Incredible that Ruben Amorim and the boys didn't go for this. But according to reports, the club decided that the cameras could negatively impact performances on the pitch. And therefore, Amorim and co were not comfortable with it. And that's gutting for Sir Jim.
It's not just the most money potentially paid by Amazon for one of these. It's the first one that's going to sit in their true crime section as well. They have. This is beyond the pale from Man United. They've made some pretty poor decisions over the last year or two. I forgive some of them. I can't forgive this. You owe it to us. Think of the content producers around the world. We need to see this.
This would be one worth watching, Andy.
Yeah, do you not reckon part of it is Amorim's probably watched? Well, he's definitely watched the Spurs one, hasn't he? And he thought, Pochettino didn't last very long in that. I don't really fancy boxing up my stuff in October. Or but wondering who they would bring in. Would they bring Mourinho back to give it a boost? Because the sense at the time, wasn't it, that maybe Spurs have made this, even what at the time seemed like quite an unusual move of bringing in Mourinho just to give the Amazon documentary a bit of a boost.
Oh, I tell you what. There's no way. There's not enough money to be spent there. Or is there? I don't know. I think it's a real shame because these are the documentaries that are worth watching. Because when you watch them and they're essentially kind of PR exercises, I know they're all PR exercises, but when it's all polished and professional and everything's going well and da-da-di-da, that's why people love the Sunderland Till I Die one.
The problem is though the All or Nothing ones are far more sanitised than Sunderland Till I Die was.
Yeah, but there's only so much you can sanitise at Man United at the moment. You can't.
Well, and that's probably why I'm not doing it. That's probably why I'm not doing it, right? Because there will be all sorts of complicated processes around sign off and editorial control and all that kind of thing. And I don't reckon that United run a tight enough ship to go anywhere near something acceptable. It's not going to embarrass them around the world even further. And to their minimal credit, I suppose they probably realise that, and they think, it's no good earning £10 million from a documentary series if you're going to have hundreds of millions wiped off your value by shitting your pants every episode.
Yeah, that's a sponsorship with Kleenex or something like that, or some sort of.
But we live in. I think that'll be something quite different, Marcus.
Oh yeah, I was going to say. Yeah, I couldn't think of it. Charmin, that was one. What about Bounty, the stronger soaker upper? Was that what? I can't. Was the Taste of Paradise? I'm getting confused. Anyway, it's not going to happen, Andy. It seems to be the case, which is a great shame. Let's start a petition. I think it is
a great shame.
Yeah, but I think they probably thought to themselves, and I think this is the kind of chats they would have in the Man United boardroom at the moment. They thought, what would the Football Ramble want? They'd wanted the documentary. Right, let's not do the documentary. And that's the end of that.
And I think, given Amorim's frankness, it's a shame that he's put the mockers on it, because he's I think the reason why it would be so watchable.
Oh, there's no way he's agreeing to it.
No, totally. But I think, when you look at, I guess you'd see some of Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and it would be, as Luke says, like laughable. And presumably they've got at least one PR professional in who said, no. We can't allow you to do this.
Ratcliffe couldn't get through 40 minutes with Gary Neville.
No.
without completely shitting the bed.
Exactly. I mean, it should have been like watching Graham Hick batting for Worcestershire in the early 90s.
And it ended up looking like Prince Andrew on fucking Newsnight is what it ended up looking like.
Yeah, it was. Lovely cricket reference there. I'm sure Vish appreciated that one. Well, gentlemen, on the subject of questionable owners, we spoke at length on the mailbag yesterday about Sheffield Wednesday's plight. So do give that a listen, because if you're unaware of what's going on with Sheffield Wednesday at the moment, I mean, it is truly quite shocking. Last night, MPs in the House of Commons voted to establish an independent regulator to oversee the men's game in England's top 5 divisions, which is good news. The legislation will give powers to a body that is separate to the government and football authorities, because its aim will be to ensure the financial sustainability of football clubs. Now I know yesterday, Luke, that you said, it's hard to unring a bell, and I think those sentiments are fair enough, but this is good news, though.
I didn't say it's hard to unring a bell. I say it's impossible to. You can't unring a bell, quite literally.
Indeed.
I've yet to see someone do it. But yeah, it's good news, but it's the caveat for me would just be, we don't know the detail of what powers they've got, what teeth they're going to have and how sharp they are, right? So it depends on the detail of how much power the independent regulator will actually have, what they can demand from clubs, what they can see, what they can't see, how it's actually going to work, and when it's going to be implemented. And I don't think those details have become clear yet. But it's a positive step, as you rightly say. I mean, football has shown, empirically over the last couple of decades or whatever it is now, that they can't keep their own house in order. So they need to be able to do so. The fear I have for it is just that the Premier League is tremendously powerful, and it knows its own power, and it knows how culturally significant it is around the world as an export, and how important it is to the UK. And so it's all very well having a regulator, but it depends what they, what power they can wield over what is undeniably one of the most powerful organisations in the UK. So look, it's great. It's a good positive step. It was something, you can tell it's a positive step, as you mentioned, or you alluded to yesterday, Marcus. It's a positive step, and you know why it is, because the Premier League fought tooth and nail for literally years to stop it happening. So that tells you everything you need to know about the principle of it. We just need to wait and see what the detail is.
Exactly. That's it entirely, Luke. I think you put it all brilliantly, but I think you do look at the people who are against it, like John Textor, for example. I don't really want to go back to him, but he went on a big rant about the worst thing that could be happening to English football is they wanted to bring in an independent regulator, because it'd stop basically cowboys like me doing whatever we want. And
the worst thing that actually could happen to English football is people like you being involved.
That's exactly it. But I think going back to briefly to what you were talking about yesterday, you just have to look at the numbers in League One, which at the moment it looks like where Sheffield Wednesday are going to end up in the near future, and League Two, and the level of unsustainability I think is absolutely staggering, really. I mean, you look at like Carlisle United, who recently had a US takeover. They've had successive relegations. They had the highest wage bill in League Two last season and managed to get relegated. I think it's clear that the fit and proper persons test in the Premier League and in the EFL is not really doing what it should. I feel like the financial model of football is totally out of control. And as Luke says, I mean, we can talk about the Premier League being a great export. For me, as I've said time and time again on here, I think one of the things, maybe the thing we have the most to be proud of as a football nation is the fact that we have clubs that are driven, championed, supported by their communities all the way down. And a lot of them are looking down the barrel of not existing anymore in the near future, because it's just a mess. and something needs to be done. It's
And
not just about the Premier League.
And the fit and proper person test is a really interesting thing because we all know what we think about it, and we've joked about it before and remarked about how unfit for purpose it is, ironically itself, right? And so, but the point about that, I think, is when you look at the detail on it, is that it feels to me that the fit and proper person test needs to almost necessarily be watered down and encouraging of people coming in, because invariably these people who are coming in to save football clubs. And so if you make the fit and proper person test too stringent, you necessarily limit the pool of the potential investors who can come in, and therefore clubs go to the wall, which is a disaster for so many different reasons. Therefore, the step that people take is they say, we'll have the fit and proper person test like this because we'd rather take a chance that a wealthy person is going to be a good person rather than essentially condemn a football club, a community asset, to no longer existing.
Agreed.
So the fit and proper person test is kind of the way that it works is kind of a canary in the mine. The problem is the mine is full of poison gas, right?
Yeah, and so, also, really, it shouldn't be just about, what have you done before? Have you got any criminal convictions? Have you run businesses into the ground before? Football is a business completely apart from any other. And we've seen that with owner after owner after owner who think, my business is successful, therefore I will apply those exact same principles to football. And it simply doesn't work. And they simply don't have a handle or understanding on how to make a football club succeed.
Yeah.
And by the time you've worked that out, it's too late. The club or various clubs are in a mess, and we can't have more berries.
No, exactly. And now what we need to see is we need to see the detail. We need to know who's going to spearhead it, who's going to be involved in the regulator, what their credentials are, how they're going to work, and the powers they've got. Because it's all very good for Lisa Nanny to stand up and make a kind of quite bombastic speech about how much it's a great day for football, and list all the clubs that have been in trouble and why this regulator is there to stop that happening again. But we need to see the detail on it now. And once we see that, we'll be able to assess it properly. I'm cynical about it, but then, why wouldn't you be given what's happened in the past? So we'll see.
I think you're probably right to be cynical about it. Don't count your chickens, etc., etc. Well, MPs also voted down a motion to have 10 Premier League games on free-to-air TV each season. I know that evidently a very small minority of MPs were quite passionate about this, to see Premier League games on free-to-air TV, but it's not happening. Luke, they voted that down. Were you surprised? Or disappointed, maybe?
Well, my broad take on it, and I don't actually know in detail what the Premier League themselves' position was on this. Mm-hmm. I mean, I suspect they probably fought against it, but I actually think that's quite short-sighted of them if they did. And I think it would have been a good move to do 10 games. Basically, look at one a month. I think I'm right in saying they have that in Spain and France and other places, that one game a month or something is on free to air. But Andy better fill the detail on that. But my take though is that if you look at the viewing figures for the Premier League and for the Champions League on TNT, obviously for those who are listening outside of the UK, Premier League is almost exclusively on Sky Sports, where we have a package that's on TNT, and then TNT exclusively have European football for the most part. The amount of money the Premier League are able to command for this effectively for this content it goes up here, deal on deal. But actually, last season the viewing figures were pretty dangerously down, and I think that there's probably a load of different reasons for that you don't necessarily have to go into now. But I actually thought that if the Premier League could effectively arrange for a free-to-air option in a minimal way that gives almost a taste of the biscuit to people who haven't taken the plunge for football on Sky because it's punitively expensive, or they perhaps don't want to make that decision because they're not as into it, it could serve as a really effective marketing tool from the Premier League's point of view. Now, look, I'm not here to do Premier League's marketing for them, and they don't need me, but to me, it feels like a bit of a short-sighted thing. I think it would have perhaps gone some way to arrest the slide in viewing figures. The motivation that the MPs had for voting against this motion is probably slightly different. But to me, I think it would have been a good thing. I think it would have been great to take the national sport and get more people to watch it, because I think that seems like the fair thing to do. And I think it would have worked for everyone, actually, if you think about it properly. But that it's not happened.
Yeah, I mean, few overseas countries do free-to-air games or free-to-air league games. So the exception, the main exception being Germany. I think 10 is quite a high number. So if you're aiming towards 3 and 5, which is, say, the Bundesliga marker, I think that makes a lot of sense. I agree. I think in terms of, it's something that I know this is separate because MPs have voted against it, and as you say, we wait to hear what the Premier League's view on it or their reasoning towards it would be. But really, the Premier League has been a bit slow with this. I think behind not just the Bundesliga, but if you compare it to American sports, which I think really the Premier League would probably put itself more in line with, that idea that, you know, this is what's happening, why don't you come and join the party? To me, that seems obvious. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's just a great way of advertising your product, which the viewing figures, as Luke says, are not nearly as big as they should be at the moment. I know we kind of live in an environment, and our audience too, where, you know, we're a community that love football and think about it all the time. And you can assume that everyone is like that and everyone's got Sky or TNT or both or whatever. But it's expensive for people. And I think you really have to encourage people to make that commitment.
I think they could all take a leaf out of the Zone's book, make the whole competition free to air.
Forever.
Once again, trailblazing that they are. Be sure to close your accounts once the Club World Cup's open, if indeed you have opened them, though. But no, appreciate your thoughts there, gentlemen, and I think it will wrangle on this stuff because the money men do not like being told what to do and how to do it. Anyway, let's get away from the money men. Club World Cup, PSG versus Real Madrid. Myself and David Cartledge will be bringing you a brand new Ramble React straight after this game, so don't miss out. I mean, it is a big game, no matter how much you scrutinise that tournament, and we should. Whatever way you cut it, this is a big game, and a lot of the talk is about Kylian Mbappe coming up against his, I'm going to say, old employers, because it very much felt like that towards the end of his time there, bearing in mind he filed a moral harassment case against them for the way he was treated when he revealed his desire to leave in 2023. Although, according to L'Equipe, he dropped that case on Tuesday. Andy, is this the Kylian Mbappe derby that we did or didn't need in this competition?
100%. And moral harassment case or not, I think he's far more bothered about the 55 million that he says they still owe him. So
that's a lot, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
An awful lot of money.
Very, very tough to let that go.
Prize money for this tournament.
Yeah, exactly. It's half of it, isn't it? Look, I know the modern world isn't great with nuance, and certainly Kylian Mbappe's reputation has suffered a little bit from that. He's always been quite, but the argument I've got with the people who own PSG, not with PSG, not with my former teammates. Of course, we know he's besties with Ashraf Hakimi and all that. But yeah, there's no other way of framing it, really, is there? And I guess the other side of that is the fact that, you know, obviously he was really unwell at the start of the tournament. He was hospitalised. He's only been gradually put back bit by bit into the team. He's not actually started a game yet, so I'd be interested to see if he starts. But like, he looked fire when he came on against Dortmund. So the idea that he'll have plenty in the tank and he'll be really up for this, and B, they've got two of their defenders suspended, of course, William Pacho, who was their best defender last season, and Luca Hernandez. And
it's also the next chapter in the world's most horrendous new European football rivalry, isn't it? Because you've got the old money of Real Madrid, 15 European titles, and the new money of PSG, 1 European title finally. And Real Madrid, of course, will be desperate to not feel like there's been some kind of symbolic handing over of the baton in European football to PSG. So they'll be, I mean, I don't know if it'll quite translate to the players, but you can, you know, bet your bollocks to a barn dance that the ownership at Real Madrid and the powers that be will be desperate to not lose to PSG, because they will want to avoid any talk of the fact that, you know, there's new kids on the block now and all the rest of it. So that's tedious for the rest of us. Whoever wins, we lose. It's Alien versus Predator. But put your feet up in front of the telly and have a good time. That's what I'd say.
I'd listen to David and I pick the bones out of it after the game for Ramble Reacts. I mean, whatever happens, they are two huge clubs in European football, world football, damn it all. It's going to be the result is going to send shockwaves through a small part of wherever the stadium is based. and the winner of the game will manage to conspire to lose to Chelsea in the final. I'm telling you. I am telling you. So, we look forward to that, I suppose. So, one thing we are looking forward to later today is that the Lionesses are back in action in the Euros, of course. Yeah, they face the Netherlands. It really is a must-win game if they want to keep their Group D qualification hopes alive. If they draw, they're still in it, but if you think about it and look at all the permutations, they really, really need a win here. Do catch Chloe and Rachel's reaction tomorrow over on Up Front, because it's a huge game. It really is for the Lionesses. So wish them all the best of luck.